The movie opens with Jack Torrance arriving at the Grand Overlook Hotel, where he is interviewing for a winter caretaker position. Meanwhile, we are introduced to his wife, Wendy, and their young son, Danny. Through their conversation, it becomes clear that they'll be staying at the hotel for the entire winter season. Danny also has an imaginary friend named Tony, who seems uneasy about the move and warns him against it. Back at the job interview, Jack reveals that he was formerly a teacher but left the profession due to dissatisfaction with his salary. He now hopes to use the solitude of the Overlook Hotel to focus on writing. His employer explains that the hotel only operates from May through October, closing during the harsh winter months when maintaining access becomes too costly. While a role isn't physically demanding, the isolation can be mentally taxing. Jack, however, sees this as a perfect opportunity, stating that 5 months of peace is exactly what he needs to work on his book. The conversation takes a dark turn when the manager recounts a horrifying past event. Years ago, a previous caretaker went mad, murdered his entire family with an axe, neatly arranged their bodies, and then took his own life. Unfazed, Jack assures them he won't suffer the same fate. Danny, still troubled by Tony's reluctance to move, has a disturbing vision. On the hotel's closing day, the Torrance family arrives. As Danny plays darts, he catches sight of 2 eerie young girls, the same ones from his vision. Meanwhile, the hotel manager gives Jack and Wendy a grand tour, including a vast hedge maze on the property. During their stay, they meet the head chef, Dick Halloran, who seems particularly interested in Danny. Sensing something special about the boy, Dick takes him aside under the pretense of offering him ice cream. He reveals that Danny possesses the Shining, a rare psychic ability to see past and future events. Danny confesses that Tony shows him visions in his sleep, though he struggles to recall them upon waking. When he inquires about room 237, Dick's expression changes. Though he denies being scared of it, his reaction suggests otherwise. He sternly warns Danny to stay away from that room. A month passes and life in the hotel appears peaceful. Wendy brings Jack breakfast in bed, and the two share a pleasant moment. Jack mentions feeling a strange sense of familiarity with the hotel, as if he's been there before. Outside, Wendy and Danny enjoy the fresh snow, wandering through the hedge maze, marveling at its scale. However, the tranquility doesn't last long. News reports confirm that heavy snowstorms are rolling in, officially cutting them off from the outside world. Danny, riding his tricycle through the empty halls, stops in front of room 237. He reaches for the doorknob, but it won't budge, so he moves on. Meanwhile, Jack struggles with writer's block, unable to put anything on paper. Wendy approaches him with an update about the worsening snowstorm and offers to check in on his progress later. However, Jack, now irritable and frustrated, sets strict rules. When he's working, he's not to be disturbed under any circumstances. Wendy attempts to make a phone call from the hotel, only to discover that the lines are down. She manages to reach the Forest Service by radio, where she learns that heavy snowfall has damaged the telephone lines, likely leaving them unusable until spring. The man on the other end advises her to keep the radio on at all times and to contact them in case of an emergency. Meanwhile, Danny continues riding his tricycle through the vast, empty corridors of the Overlook. This time, however, he encounters the same 2 young girls from before. They beckon him to come play with them, but their presence fills him with dread. In a brief yet chilling vision, Danny sees their lifeless bodies sprawled across the floor, bloodied and motionless beside an axe. Wednesday, while playing with his toy cars, Danny suddenly notices a ball rolling toward him as if from nowhere. Uneasy, he looks around for Wendy, but his attention is drawn to the slightly open door of room 237. Elsewhere in the hotel, Jack is thrashing in his sleep, tormented by a nightmare in which he brutally murders Wendy and Danny with an axe, chopping them into pieces. He wakes up screaming, and Wendy rushes to comfort him, assuring him that everything is okay. Just then, Danny appears in the doorway. Wendy's relief turns to horror when she notices his torn clothing and the deep bruises on his neck. Convinced that Jack is responsible, Wendy furiously confronts him. Feeling frustrated and unwelcome, Jack heads to the hotel's grand ballroom, known as the Gold Room. As he enters, he's greeted by an unexpected sight, a fully stocked bar despite the hotel being devoid of alcohol when they arrived. Behind the counter stands a bartender named Lloyd, who Jack seems to recognize. Unbeknownst to Jack, this moment symbolizes something far darker. He has unknowingly surrendered himself to the hotel's sinister influence. Meanwhile, Wendy, terrified and unsure of what to do, when she finally finds him in the bar, she is in a state of distress. She tells him that Danny claimed a strange woman attacked him inside room 237. Jack, skeptical but intrigued, decides to investigate. Stepping into room 237, Jack discovers a beautiful woman emerging from the bathroom. She approaches him seductively and they share a kiss, until Jack catches a glimpse of their reflection in the mirror. The woman's youthful appearance fades, revealing her true form. At the same time, far from the hotel, Dick Halloran, who had sensed something was wrong, tries to contact the Torrance family, but the damaged phone lines prevent him from getting through. Later, Wendy pleads with Jack to leave the Overlook immediately, convinced that their son is in danger. But Jack, now fully under the hotel's influence, reacts angrily. He accuses her of trying to sabotage his work and ruin his life. As his rage escalates, Wendy breaks down in tears, while Jack storms off and returns to the gold room. This time, the ballroom is no longer empty. It's filled with elegantly dressed guests, as if from a different era. Jack bumps into a waiter who spills drinks on his jacket. The two retreat to the restroom, where Jack engages in a cryptic conversation with the man who introduces himself as Grady. Jack immediately recognizes the name. Grady was the caretaker who had murdered his family. But when confronted, Grady denies everything, claiming that Jack has always been the true caretaker. He then offers Jack chilling advice. Rather than simply arguing with those who oppose him, he should take action, just as Grady did with his own family. He sabotages the hotel's remaining radio, cutting off their last line of communication with the outside world. The next morning, unable to shake the feeling that something terrible is happening, Dick Halloran makes the decision to travel to the Overlook himself. Meanwhile, Wendy, now fearing for her life, cautiously searches for Jack. Armed with a baseball bat, she ventures to the lounge where he usually works. However, instead of finding Jack, she comes across his manuscript. As she flips through the pages, her blood runs cold. Every single sheet is filled with the same phrase, typed over and over again. At that moment, Jack appears behind her. His expression is filled with anger and contempt as he berates her, claiming that she doesn't understand the responsibility he has been given. He insists that he was entrusted with a hotel and that she is trying to ruin everything. Terrified, Wendy attempts to retreat, but Jack follows closely, his voice growing more menacing. He taunts her, claiming that he only wants to correct her thinking. As he closes in on her, Wendy has no choice but to defend herself. She swings the baseball bat with all her strength, striking Jack and sending him tumbling down the stairs. As Jack lies unconscious, Wendy struggles to drag him by the legs, pulling him across the floor and locking him inside the pantry. When he finally comes to, he remains eerily calm, warning Wendy that they won't be leaving. He taunts her, suggesting she check the snowmobile. When she does, she discovers the awful truth. Jack has sabotaged it, leaving them stranded. Sometime later, a knock echoes from the other side of the pantry door. It's Grady. He expresses doubt in Jack's ability to carry out his duty. Meanwhile, Wendy is asleep, unaware that Danny has taken a knife from the table and wandered toward the bedroom door. In a trance-like state, he scrawls the word "redrum" in red lipstick, whispering it repeatedly. His voice grows into a frantic shout, abruptly waking Wendy. Dazed, she turns toward the door, only to see its reflection in the mirror. The reversed letters now reveal the word in its true form. Before Wendy can react, a terrifying sound erupts from outside, the splintering of wood. Jack is hacking away at the bedroom door with an axe, his maniacal grin visible through the widening gap. Wendy and Danny retreat into the bathroom, desperately seeking refuge. Wendy helps her son squeeze through the small window, sending him outside into the freezing night. But when she tries to follow, she quickly realizes she won't fit. Jack breaks through the bedroom door and now turns his attention to the bathroom. The axe rings down repeatedly, smashing through the thin wood. As his face peers through the jagged hole, he utters the now iconic phrase, "Here's Johnny!" Wendy, clutching a kitchen knife in terror, manages to slash his hand, forcing him to recoil. At that moment, the distant hum of an approaching snowmobile reaches Jack's ears. It's Dick Halloran, finally arriving at the Overlook. Jack, momentarily distracted, stalks off to investigate. Not long after, he ambushes Halloran, burying the axe deep into his chest. Danny, sensing the psychic shock of Halloran's death, lets out a scream. Jack hears it and immediately turns his sights on the boy. As Wendy searches frantically for Danny, she encounters disturbing apparitions, ghastly figures from the hotel's past. Then she stumbles upon Halloran's lifeless body, confirming her worst fears. Meanwhile, Danny sprints into the vast hedge maze outside, with Jack limping after him in relentless pursuit. Danny, having explored the maze with Wendy before, expertly navigates its twists and turns. Using his wits, he carefully retraces his steps, erasing his footprints in the snow to throw his father off course. Jack, on the other hand, grows increasingly disoriented. His breath grows ragged, his body weakens, and his movements slow. At last, Danny finds his way out, reuniting with Wendy at the maze's entrance. Without wasting a second, they flee to the snowmobile and escape into the night, leaving Jack behind. Lost in the icy labyrinth, Jack staggers aimlessly, his mind unraveling further with each passing moment. His body succumbs to the frigid cold, and by morning, he is frozen solid, his twisted grimace permanently etched into his frost-covered face. In the final scene, the camera lingers on the hotel's grand wall of photographs. Among them, a black and white group photo stands out. At the very center, there he is, Jack Torrance, smiling amongst the crowd.